So, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place due to the outbreak of the coronavirus, this meeting of the Town of Berlin Select Board will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time. The Town of Berlin will use best efforts to post an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the town's webpage, the town's YouTube channel. Approved minutes will be posted to mytowngovernment.org. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to attend the virtual meeting may attend via the Zoom webinar platform in one of two ways, with both audio and video access or by telephone audio only. And you guys know the spiel about the technical difficulties. So we'll call the meeting to order at 7:02. We have approval of the February 1st open session meeting minutes. Comments, questions, motions?
So moved.
Scotty, you're muted.
I muted because of the chimes and forgot to unmute. I second, or I'm fine.
Okay. All right, then we'll take a vote. Keefe, aye.
Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
That's unanimous. Margaret, did we have any correspondence this week? Oh, she's muted.
She's on
too.
mute.
And it's all right, I did it again. There's no
You're
new
just making me feel better.
correspondence this week, but you do have, we've added last week's to an agenda item this week.
Yes. And is there any general public comment? Seeing none, we can move on, I guess. And that would be our general department update from Dave Smith.
I'm actually surprised to see Dave. There he is.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah, anybody want to bet when he's going back to bed, like right after the meeting?
yeah, that's
Prepare
right.
for
Here?
tomorrow's.
Yep.
Mhm. Oh,
Oh,
you're muted.
He was really good there. We could hear his first word and now he's muted.
There he
There
is.
we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Nice to
Well,
see you,
I
Dave.
can't hear
Welcome.
myself, but you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
I love technology. So, good evening.
Yes,
How
it
are
is
you?
How's everybody?
evening.
I'm exhausted.
Yes.
I bet.
We won't keep you
Can't
long.
hear any of you. This is very bizarre.
Dave, can you hear us now?
I think
Dave?
he's moving to his computer as opposed to,
Yeah.
And he's gone.
Sometimes it takes logging out and logging back in. It's the strangest thing. So maybe.
Bring on the dancing cat, Peg.
Yeah, he's right there.
Sorry, I can't hear any of you, but I'll go along with this, I guess. It's
Can
going to
you
be
hear
a
us? difficulty
difficulty for Peg because I know she's going to have questions and I won't be able to hear them. You'll have to text me. So, highway-wise for the month of January was relatively quiet, which was nice. I think we're making up for it now, though. We only had 4 snow events. We did some tree brush removal on the roadsides, cleaned up some rubbish on some roadsides. Our intern completed his time that was allotted, and he's actually in a tractor trailer training class right now, trying to get his CDL license so he can get a full-time job in a highway department somewhere. We're down to employees, as you know. We had a little bit of a COVID scare, which was, I think, a false report because it came back, the test was positive, and then 3 days later it was negative. So that's a good thing anyway. Building wise, we've been relatively busy. They did the elevator inspection at 23 Linden. That was during the COVID scare. I had to hire Dave Litchwell to come in. Actually, I want to put a shout out to Dave and Dave Litchwell and Tommy Dorr for stepping up and really helping us out with winter operations. Yes, and also Dave has been assisting me with some of the building maintenance things, letting people in and out of the building, which is kind of challenging now. But thank you to both of them. We had to do some maintenance on the fire department doors. And National Grid, they're in town. They haven't got off of Crosby yet. I think they're going to be there for another few weeks. There's a lot of trees on Crosby that have to come down. Other than that, welcome to winter.
Yeah. So you're still unable to hear us?
I have no volume here, so I can't hear. I don't know how to turn this
Oh.
damn thing on.
Oh, well.
Quick, give him all action items. He can't say no.
Hang on, I'm going to try something. This is what happens when you let somebody have technology that shouldn't have any. It says it's supposed to be working.
You still can't hear us, though.
You know what? I'm guessing that he can, and he's selectively not listening to us. Just saying.
Oh, I got you.
Ah!
It's a miracle.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Don't give a smartphone to a stupid person. That's what I keep telling people. All right, Peg, what do you got?
Holy moly, Dave! I saw all the trees down at Crosby.
That's awesome.
Are you guys? Because I could hear it today. Are you guys chopping them up, or is that somebody else like going over there and picking them up?
It's all National Grid.
Really, they're picking up. Okay. So what do you do with all the trees that are like laying there as you come down Crosby and Jones?
We're
comes
going to
up?
give them to you.
Oh, great, thanks. Yeah, I'll throw them in McGowan's yard. I don't care.
Yeah, we've got a list of some people that are looking for it when we can
Nice.
get caught up. They're not bothering anybody at the present time,
No.
so when we get caught up, we'll grab them.
No, the thing is with all the snow, Dave, I don't think that they're going to go anywhere for a while.
No.
So you
Well,
should
if
be
somebody
fine.
wants to steal them, be my guest.
Yeah, you steal them and it will wipe anybody out coming up Jones.
Right, but that was part of the arrangement that I made with National Grid. It actually keeps them moving along, and they can get more trees cut. They don't have to worry about picking up the stems, and we'll
Yeah.
pick them up and we'll get rid of them.
Okay. I know I keep looking for you on Lyman, but yeah, you're not going too far on Crosby yet.
No,
It's okay. No, you know, knock wood, haven't lost anything with all the storms, so I don't care. Yeah. No, I got no questions for you. I know you're busy. Well, all right, I lied. I do have one question. Have you had any applicants for your two
Yes.
spots?
we have 6, maybe a little bit more. A lot of applicants without the proper licensing, which it seems to be getting common. But we'll go through them and interview them and see what we end up with.
Nice. Okay.
Dave, I was going to ask you if maybe next time you come, you could talk to us about your warrant article. or-
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
All right.
There's a, Chris, I think there's a little time tonight before the poll hearings start. I don't know if
I didn't know if he was prepared or not. You know, he can talk to us about it now if you'd like.
Sure. So I requested a new front end loader, which it's time. We have one that's 20 years old and it's tired. That's a substantial purchase. It was $175,000.
Was that the one that was sitting out front that had the lights on at Christmas?
That's the grader.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the grader. No, we still use it. It's getting crunchy and rusty, and it's time. That needs to be replaced. Another item was the wood chipper, which is a 1996 model, still functioning, but once again, it's getting time and it's starting to fail on a regular basis. But it is what it is. And the other item I think we put in, was it a bucket truck, Margaret? Was that the 3
bucket
items I
truck,
had?
yeah.
Right. So it'd still be nice to try to come up with some resolution, whether it be a cost share with another town or purchase a used truck, because the trees aren't going away, even with National Grid coming through and taking away the hazard trees. They're only taking the stuff that's affecting their lines, so they're not going to take other trees down. So that, and it's an ongoing, trees an ongoing thing. So I think it's something the town needs to look at purchasing a truck for immediate remediation of some trees and for long-term maintenance of trees.
Dave, have you heard anything back on the roof? Weren't they coming in to do an inspection on the roof? Margaret's
did.
shaking her head, yes.
Yes, they did do the inspection and they did forward us a estimate. I believe it was 200,000, Margaret.
Yeah, it was $200,000, which is probably a little less than the capital planning committee thought it might be, because capital planning committee was discussing this with respect to the air handler that needs to be replaced on the roof. They were concerned that replacing the air handler without replacing the
Roof.
the 20-something-year-old roof would require taking the air handler off, putting the roof back on, things like that. So the CPC might end up, I don't know for sure, they might end up meeting and talking about revised recommendations on that now that they have the estimate. That was a very long roundabout.
That's all right.
I think I just want to chime in. I think Eloise, if she can chime in on this too. I think that roof is older than 20 years. I think it was repaired or refurbished or something 20 years ago.
It's been refurbished twice.
Yeah.
Hmm. When are the guards going up on the roof? Or
They're up.
never mind. What? So
They're-
we'll wait till we place the roof before we
No,
put the
they're up.
guards
Oh, they're up there.
Are they up? Oh,
Yeah,
very cool.
You have to drive out back and look at the lower section over between the fire station and the town office building, and you can see the guardrails up there.
Nice.
Okay.
Just a couple more notes on the capital request that Dave put in. So Dave did put in that both the wood chipper and the loader do have some resale value, which of course we would do. Dave estimated $25,000 on the loader, I think, and $8,000 on the wood chipper, something in that vicinity. So we'd put these on resellers websites in order to get them sold for the top dollar.
Good. That sounds great. Any other questions for Dave?
He
I'll
needs
be
to go to
fine.
bed.
Yeah. Time to turn in?
Yeah. We get ready for tomorrow.
Get ready
Yeah.
for tomorrow.
Yeah. This one tomorrow is is that going to be an all-day event?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's not going to be a lot of snow, but it stretches out over the course of the day, which, sometimes you're better off getting a foot of snow in 4 or 5 hours and then you can deal with it and not have to fight it all day.
Right. Well, good luck to you guys. You've been doing a great job.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks
you've
for
been
the
doing
work. You look good.
And get some
Welcome.
sleep.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
Hi, Dave.
Thanks.
Take care.
All righty. Well, Margaret, do you want to do your town administrator report?
Sure, I have a whole bunch of stuff. I'll try to condense it. First of all, the Stoddard CR Randall Road. I just need Scott, if you could come in and sign it. It's in the
Oh,
select
sorry.
board's box in the copy room. I was
Okay.
gonna go with 2 signatures, but when Dennis notarized it, he notarized and cited all 3 of you. So now I have to wait for your signature.
Sorry
So
about
if
that.
you
I
could-
was going to swing by today and got wrapped up in work. I'll try tomorrow on my way home from work.
Okay, all right. Now let's jump into COVID vaccines. Okay. As most everyone probably knows, there's still a significant shortfall on COVID vaccines. Berlin's allocation is essentially 10 per week. And Victoria, our Council on Aging Director, has been working on scheduling appointments for seniors 75 and older to go get their vaccines at Devon's, all the way to Devon's. So the Board of Health, Chief Clark, Victoria, and I have all been working together in our own capacities with other towns to try to coordinate a regional vaccine clinic. Berlin's staffing resources or combined resources really wouldn't be able to support a sustained vaccine clinic. So a clinic over a period of time in order to get the entire town vaccinated. I think Berlin can do the 1 day, flu vaccines and things like that. But to do one over a period of days or an extended period of time would be a huge logistical challenge for us. So I have met once already with the 16 other Neshoba Associated Boards of Health Town Administrators. And we're meeting again tomorrow, this time with Jim Garafi from Neshoba and both of our state legislators, John Cronin and Meg Kilcoyne. There's actually going to be a large legislative delegation at this meeting because everyone in the Neshoba Valley invited their own respective legislators. So the purpose of tomorrow's meeting is to discuss coming up with a regional vaccination plan and to advocate for getting more vaccines to our area, because 10 is going to take us years and years and years to get our population vaccinated. So we are going to work together because we believe, the administrators believe, there's power in numbers, and that we're going to do better working collaboratively with each other than any of us could do alone. So that's what the purpose of tomorrow's meeting is. Now, along those same lines, Chief Clark has been meeting with other chiefs. And so they're also talking about a regional clinic. They're dealing a lot with the logistics end of this. He has not identified a potential regional location, but they might narrow it down to 7 towns or so. So something more, even closer to Berlin. So that's what we're working on right now. And I'm going to read what I asked to put up on the website and out on Facebook today. So the state, everything is changing daily. And this morning was no different. At 5 o'clock this morning, some of the orders changed, but Berlin's residents 75 and older can now make appointments for the vaccine. And as I said, vaccines are severely limited, and it could take several weeks to schedule an appointment. But the state, effective on Friday, the state opened up a toll-free call center. So all eligible people need to do now, ages 75 and older, need to call 211, and they can get assistance in making their appointments for vaccines by dialing 211 or toll free at 877-211-6277. Of course, Berlin seniors are still able to call our Council on Aging, leave their name and contact information, and Victoria Flynn, our Council on Aging Director, will continue to work with them to get appointments. I learned today that Gillette Stadium and Eastfield Mall in Springfield both have significant capacity as far as appointments go. The issue, of course, where we are is requiring people to drive those distances. I think it's really unfair. It was good news to hear at the end of last week that Worcester State is going to be opening up the first central mass vaccination location. So we will have a mass vaccination site closer. And hopefully, if everything works out for the Neshoba towns, we'll have something even closer than that we can serve our residents. So if any residents 75 or older, or individuals that were eligible to be vaccinated in phase 1, have any questions or need assistance in scheduling the appointment, they can call the Council on Aging at 978-838-2750, or the numbers that I mentioned that are now up on the town's website, on cable access, I hope. I haven't gotten confirmation of that, and on Facebook.
Margaret, 211 has hours to it. It's not a 24/7 line, right?
You're right, it is, and it's Monday through
Friday. 8:30 to
Yeah,
5.
Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. Thank you, Peg.
And I can tell you that the 877 number worked, because as soon as I posted that on Facebook, I had a woman in town call me. She's like, I tried the website, I'm getting stuck. She's like, I'm not going back to the post. Give me the phone number. I gave her the phone number. She called back. She's like, I'm all set. So, yeah, so a nice little, unfortunately, down to Foxborough. But,
Right.
it was for her 75-year-old dad. And at this point, she doesn't care. So.
Right. And actually, although Foxborough is, you're right, not a convenient location for some people who can do it, that also then leaves the regional options, more appointments for those people who couldn't possibly go that far.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I think I have
so
family
as I was-
going down to Foxborough.
As I was saying, Chief Clark is working with other chiefs. Now, he said they're looking into logistics for a regional approach of at least 5 to 7 communities. They're also looking at potentially getting trained. All vaccines are not created equal. The Pfizer vaccine takes an extra skill set and extra credentials in order to administer the Pfizer vaccine because of there's something they need to use because of the cold temperatures it's stored in. I wish I could tell you, but I'm not a medical professional. Moderna is a little bit simpler. All right. Anything else? Any other questions on COVID vaccines?
Is the van available to take people to appointments?
It's not available to take multiple people to appointments. If there was space in scheduling, they could contact Victoria to see if there was availability to bring a person.
Okay.
The prior orders that governed sector-specific capacity rules and gathering limits has now been superseded and rescinded by order number 63, the newest order from the state. It increases sector-specific limits to 40% from the 25%. The gatherings capacity is still indoor gatherings are limited to a maximum of 10 people. Outdoor gatherings are limited to a maximum of 20 people. So there hasn't been much progress as far as the number of people allowed in one space, but the capacity limits the capacity limits in various business sectors have increased. Some business sectors, some business types are still not allowed to operate. The mask mandate is still in place, which means that masks must be worn in all public places. People can be fined $500 for violating that. We have not cracked down on that, and I don't know many that have, but I'd say it's a good incentive to wear your mask in public locations. All right, I'll jump down to finance. On Wednesday night, Assabet Valley Technical High School was supposed to meet with the Finance Committee. That has been rescheduled now to February 24th due to a conflict in scheduling. Conservation Commission will be meeting with Finance Committee tonight, Wednesday night at 7:30, and that will be the only budget meeting that night. We talked a little bit about capital requests, and as Dave said, the town office roof replacement quote came in at $200,000. So if the town is considering doing the roof and the air handler, the total estimate is $260,000.
And although Assabet didn't present, do we have the numbers from Assabet to plug into the budget? So we got to start getting a sense of how we're doing.
I could get them. I think I do have the overall number. I just don't have it broken out by capital and operating yet. I can get that. Library septic invitation for bids. So, the good news is that we did receive a low qualified quote of $47,623 plus a $2,500 ledge clause in case they hit any large boulders or ledge. I am recommending now that the select board award the bid to Vandal Excavating LLC of Shirley, Mass, subject to meeting all contract requirements. I'm going to have the contract ready for signatures by February 19th. Does the board have any questions on that?
Now, this is looking for a motion?
No, I'm just giving you the recommendation, and the expectation will be that the contract will be drafted and ready for the signature on the 19th. I received one quote on cemetery maintenance and groundskeeping through June 30th, 2021 for just the remainder of this fiscal year. I did reach out to 4 different vendors and received only one quote back. A couple of the vendors got back to me and said that the request was for too short a term for them to submit quotes. The quote that we received was from Robert Guild, and now because he is also a commissioner, a cemetery commissioner, there are going to be some required actions in order to allow him to contract with the town. The first being a designation of special municipal employee of the cemetery commissioners that would have to be done by the select board. And Bob would also have to file a specific disclosure for contracting with his own agency, his own town agency. I don't know. I think that might wrap
So
it
what
up.
would next steps be on that process?
The next step would be for me to come to the select board, explaining the need to designate the cemetery commission as special municipal employees, or cemetery commissioners as special municipal employees. And that would get the ball rolling. And I'll also explain the process by which Bob has to file the disclosure, which is going to have to be filed with the town clerk. So I can do that by next week.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Tomorrow, the Assabet Housing Consortium is meeting. I did reach out to Metro West today to find out how it looks for Berlin's membership. I did not get a specific answer, but she was going to reach out to the consortium and ask that they take action tomorrow. So that's at 9:30. And the last thing I have is just a proposal. I have a proposal for the board.
I saw.
You saw that? Okay.
It's in huge yellow, Margaret. How could we
Yeah.
not see
Oh,
it?
it's
That-
yellow.
it-
It's gray.
It's a
on
page.
mine.
It's a page of yellow. It's an
I know.
entire
It is.
page of yellow.
It's a page of yellow. So, but that's those mark my revisions from today. So I am proposing that the select board consider establishing select board liaison guidelines and assignments. I understand the board previously did select board liaisons. My concern is that I am required to attend meetings of the Select Board, Finance Committee, Personnel Committee, and Capital Planning Committee. And I attend as many other meetings as I possibly can, but often there are meeting conflicts and I can, and it's hard to attend more than one or two meetings in one night. And I know that the board wants to keep abreast of the happenings, activities of their appointed boards and committees. So I ask that the board consider this, and I'm happy to present draft guidelines at your February 16th meeting. This would allow the board to include liaison reports on your weekly agenda. If the board was to split up these committees equally, it would mean 5 committees each. Some of these committees very rarely meet, so you'd have to divvy that up equally. Some of the frequently active committees versus not. So I ask that the board consider this and let me know your thoughts.
I think it would be very helpful for Margaret, who is trying to
Yeah.
be like 3 places at once. And, perhaps it's just a matter of keeping in touch with these groups to make sure that there's something that they need that we can provide.
Yep.
I think it could work. Last time, I think it was more just, well, for a while, it was just department heads. And we have that solved by having monthly reports from each of them. So yeah, I think, we need to think about it, and we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. There are some committees that are not necessarily select board appointed, but both spend money and make large decisions that I wouldn't want to take away from them. But I'd like to sort of know more where things are going, just to make sure we don't accidentally take actions that make their jobs either more difficult or confused messaging. They're saying yes and we say no or something.
So that's
Yeah.
where I need to come into play, my participation in those meetings. But it's also, I mean, it's the board member's choice if you'd like to attend those meetings as well.
Yep. And I'm keenly interested in the Economic Development Committee, but I think I've only met 1 or 2 of them since taking this position, because they meet at 6 o'clock and my brain is just not really thinking of it. Usually it's like 6:30 or 7 on those nights. I'm like, oh shoot, there was a meeting I was supposed to get to, but I still have great intent to try to make the Economic Development Committee.
Okay, so we
And
can.
Peg, I could guess for you.
Go ahead, go ahead. I'm looking at the list. Go ahead and guess.
Oh,
'cause
do
I'm
I have
looking at-
to?
Yep, I'm looking at 1,
I don't want to take from
2,
anyone else. I'm guessing,
3.
I'm gonna go
You
with
got at
energy,
least 3.
energy and
see-
recreation.
Well, that's 2. Yep.
Good,
got
because
2
I had
out of
2 or 3.
3.
I had 2 or 3 I liked, and I was worried someone else had already liked them too. So
Well, we
I don't know
can,
how we do this. I don't want any committee so some committees will fight over, and
It'll
some
have
committees
to
nobody's going to want. And I don't want those committees that nobody wants to know that the committees that nobody
It's
wanted.
kind
We got
of
to like
like-
draw straws.
So what, by
It's kinda
secret
like
ballot?
picking teams.
Last one,
So-
yeah, there you go. Red Rover.
So it
sent-
could be. How
right,
about
sent
the
Cable advisory
three of
right
us-
over?
right? So the 3 of us send to. Why don't the 3 of us send to Margaret before next week? The committees that we have some interest in,
yeah.
and that will start. And then
Fine.
and then we'll see if Margaret can then figure out how to balance it for the remaining ones,
Okay.
and see what we get up with a
Great.
recommendation.
We can trade at the next meeting.
There you
Right.
go.
No, arm wrestle. It's a virtual arm wrestle. Who wins? Okay.
Okay. Let's see, it's 7:32.
Yay! We can talk about telephone poles, right?
Right.
Utility
We're talking about
poles. Woo.
Oh,
And is anybody here to talk about it?
I thought.
I'm guessing Thomas Carley.
Or Michael Harding?
I don't know.
Henry?
Thomas, are you with National Grid?
Yes, I am.
See,
How's everybody doing tonight? I haven't used Zoom before, so I wasn't sure if I was even unmuted. So I'm glad you guys.
You
can hear me.
are. So far, so good.
All right, cool.
All right, so let me just read what we're doing here for the public. We're continuing our public hearing from last Monday. This was for 4 pole requests for placement within the right-of-way, 2 singularly owned poles on Bridge Road, with the petitioner being National Grid, and 2 jointly owned poles on River Road West, and the petitioners are National Grid and Verizon. Am I correct?
Yep, that's what I have in front of me.
Okay. And is there anything further that you'd like to add?
I know this is part of. It's not my job, but I am here to represent it. So I did dig in a little bit just to see what was going on, and seems like it's all part of the. Let me pull it up here. The North Marlboro substation expansion project. So not only does it look like they're expanding the substation, but it looks like there's some upgrades along the way. So yeah, I know sometimes people like to see. Usually when I go to petitions, it's just a service. Here and there, to serve like 1 or 2 customers. But this does seem like a pretty big job. So, it does look like it's pretty important. And just based on the upgrades that I'm seeing, it looks like it will kind of revitalize the infrastructure in that area. So I probably can't answer all questions, but I did try to prepare as much as I could to answer some. So if anybody does have any questions, you can feel free to ask me.
Okay. Does the board have any questions?
he just answered mine whether or not this was one project or several. It sounds
Yeah.
like this is part of one project. Yep.
It does seem to be part of that one project. Yep, just multiple work requests under that
Yep.
one umbrella.
Okay. Peg, you have anything?
No, pretty straightforward. I mean, all the other ones have been pretty straightforward, so I'll assume this
Yep.
one is as well.
Okay, and then I will ask if there's any questions from the audience.
No.
Don't see anybody.
Okay.
Is a motion in order?
Motion. is in
Someone
order.
is raising their hand.
Okay.
I think
Michael
that is
Harding, you are, yep, there you go.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a couple of things to get a bit of clarification. Sorry, my wife and I are just struggling. We're residents of 183 River Road West. And I just want to sort of clarify, ask a couple of questions. How tall are these new poles going to be?
I believe every pole on this job is a 45-footer.
Okay, so they're very much like the existing poles there.
Yeah, most poles you see are about 40 foot. These are slightly bigger, at least the ones that are getting additional equipment on them. So, but yeah, most poles you see are about 40 feet. So these are just 5 feet taller.
Okay, would the existing utility poles be removed, or are they sort of going to double up with them?
They double up only temporarily. For the jointly owned poles, we have a contract in place with Verizon that we set the pole. Usually it's right near it, so you see the double pole, and then Verizon is responsible to remove it. So sometimes Verizon does drag their feet. A lot of times I do get asked to reach out and try to help with that, but there's only so much we can do since it is a separate company. So it will be double pole for a little while. I think a project of this magnitude, they'll probably be right on it. Usually, sometimes they are a little slower when it's like in a residential area or some, there's not too many eyes on it. This seems to be on like a main road, part of a bigger project. So there will be
Sure.
double poles, but I think they should be removed quickly. And if not, you can always call Verizon and get them on it.
And to what extent would the existing trees be affected there? Would trees need to be cut, trimmed back, or even cut down?
I haven't seen it in person, so I'm not exactly sure. I know we usually require about 6 feet from the nearest conductor, so usually we try to just trim them. We don't like to cut trees down, especially near people's property. A lot of people like their trees, so
Well, exactly. That's
yeah.
really essentially why we're here.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I don't know for sure. I know if it's not that close and there's just some branches, I know they'll just trim them. I can say that for sure.
Yeah.
Usually,
all right, so
usually taking the tree down is the last resort.
Sure. So we're actually really talking about a swap out. So from a resident's point of view, we're just seeing similar posts going up and the cables just being reattached to the new posts as and when.
Exactly. Yeah. So you live on River Road West, right?
Yeah, 183. We're opposite the Worcester Standing Gravel. So we're sort of between the Bridge Street junction on River Road West and the end rotary going towards the town of Berlin.
Okay, I'm trying to find what exact pole is going to be near
I
you.
think it's pole. It was the item 3 in the.
Yeah, it's here. It's on lot 148. The
Yeah.
Stephanie R. Cummings.
Yeah, we're opposite.
Okay, I see it. Yep. Okay, so 9-50. Yeah, it looks like I don't see any equipment going on that one. So yeah, that would just be a swap, and it'd be 5 feet taller. So yeah, you would just see a slightly bigger pole.
All right.
After Verizon moves the other one.
Okay, I personally haven't got any more to ask. I don't know if my wife here has. Have you got anything more to ask, Karen?
On the materials, it said that there was extra equipment putting on for police and fire. So you were just saying that you didn't see anything on that pole extra. So does that mean that police and fire stuff is not going on all the poles that are being implemented?
I know this project has a lot of poles, so I tried to dig through and see exactly what was going on for each pole, but I got a packet of like 12 different PDFs. So I think there's only, let me just double check this work request here.
There appears to be 2 poles on River Road, one across the street from us and one down in front of another house closer to the rotary. I think that one is Rose, right on lot 163 and 167.
Okay, yep, that's pole 14. Okay, so I'm looking at the main work request here, and it says the only poles that are getting either new equipment or equipment added are pole 2 on River Road West, pole 61 on River Road, and pole 91. So I think near you guys, it's just pole replacements.
How do we know what pole number is what? I mean, I just see an X, so I don't know what the pole number is.
Yeah, yours are pole, so 163, 167, that's pole 14. And you guys are lot,
Lot 148.
Yeah, we're opposite lot 148.
You guys are 148, and that is That's pole 9-50. So according to what I have, no equipment's going on that pole.
All right, thank you very much. The other thing where I found slightly puzzling, and I mean, obviously I'm not an electrical engineer like yourself, why only 4 new poles were needed for the entire length of the road? Is this because the other poles are seen as substantial enough that they would simply swap out and the equipment be hung on those at the appropriate time?
So what I see is they're going to do, they're replacing the overhead primary going down this stretch. So usually if you look at a pole line, it sometimes has the three
Real-
conductors side by side.
Yeah.
These are getting replaced with what's called spacer cable or Hendrix cable. And it's kind of like a tighter bunch. So it's newer, heavier cable that's really high quality, and they group them really tight. So if a pole's even kind of slightly old, they'll just replace it. And if poles down the line are 40 feet, they're going to up them all to 45 just to keep them all the same length.
And those are just be
height.
swap outs, which therefore you don't need a planning application for.
Exactly. Yeah, I was surprised because at first I looked at this job and I saw a lot of replacements, and I'm like, why are we petitioning replacements? And then I finally found the few poles that are going to be newly installed. So it all started to make sense after that. But
Thank you very much indeed. I don't know if my wife's got anything more to add.
No, I don't.
All right, thank you very much indeed.
no problem.
Thank you.
And will National Grid be able to put in the good word to Verizon that Berlin doesn't like double poles?
Yeah, every time you guys, I think you have the 605 forms, or you just have the petition sketches. You might only have the petition sketches, but when we send it to Verizon right away, and I don't know why they take so long sometimes, but they get the information as soon as we install these poles. They get the word that they need to, because that's part of the contract. So I know we're in their ear trying to force them to do their part, and like I said, I think a job like this, you won't have any problem. I tend to only really see double poles last a while where, not too many people see them and they can kind of get away with it. So
Yeah, there's
I'm not in charge of that, but
there's an awful lot of double poles, I believe, in Berlin. And
oh yeah,
I know that previous selectmen have even tried very hard to get someone to take down the double poles.
Yeah, it's weird that they I don't know what the problem is with that. I know everybody's busy, but I feel like you should have like a dedicated crew just doing that if there's so many of them,
Yep.
But I can definitely put that in the notes with at
That would
least
be great.
with the right of way department and whoever submits the 605 forms, information like that. I know there's I usually work in the city of Worcester, so I can reach out to who covers the town of Berlin.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions from the board or anyone else?
Question outside of this for the person. I'm sorry, we thought the meeting started at 7:45, so we might have missed some pieces.
No.
Do you know who we contact if we want to put something ourselves on the pole, like a driveway mirror?
That's a good question. I know sometimes National Grid can be particular about keeping stuff off the poles, but I don't know if they have a problem with a driveway mirror. I know when I was growing up, my dad needed one across the street from his house, and I don't know if he ever asked anybody and just did it, or but that mirror was up forever. So it's a good question. Let me see if there's anybody I can ask about that.
Okay, now that was just my outside of this, as long as you're hanging things on poles, we've wondered about how that practice works with getting, there are some on Sawyer Hill Road, so we know it can be done.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure who to ask about that. I just asked one of my buddies. He said mirrors are not allowed on poles, but I find that hard to believe.
Okay.
Well, what if you were able to find out the answer and possibly could send an email to Mary, and Mary could.
Yeah, if you want to email me, you guys can see my name right on the Zoom thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so my email is thomas.carley@nationalgrid.com. So if you guys want to follow up, I can try to get an answer for looks like tomorrow I'll be able to get a solid answer, and
Okay,
I can
did you get
respond
that?
with what I get.
Did you get that, Michael and Karen? You could even,
Could you
I'm
just,
trying to,
we're
I
just
did-
going on the phone now.
we can't see his name very well, so it's
Okay.
Thomas.
Yep, Thomas.Carley, Carley,
Uh-huh,
at nationalgrid.com.
okay.
that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's looking like it might be the Jerry rep, but I'm just trying to get some more information here.
And one last question. When might this go ahead?
Let me see the ticket here. So it looks like I don't have any exact dates on the ticket, but it looks like everything's kind of in order except for forestry review. So they will be looking at branches and stuff that needs to be trimmed along the way. And just this petition, I believe. So a lot of stuff is in place. Right of ways taken care of, environmental checklist is complete.
Would it be possible,
Science complete.
sorry, Thomas, to cut across you, would it be possible if it does become significant from a forestry point of view that trees have to be removed and significantly trimmed, we could be informed and have our input again upon that?
Yeah, so right now I think after this meeting gets settled, I don't know if this is the first petition for this or if it's come back before, but it looks like the next step is to take care of at least going down not only in front of your property but along the route as well to see what they're going to do about the trees. So that looks like it's the next step. I'm not exactly sure how you would be able to get involved in that, but the tree's on your property, right? So they would obviously have to
Well,
talk to you.
it's across the road from us, but I'll be absolutely honest. Of course, those trees play a significant part in our view out. That's why we're concerned.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, we just like to sort of try and impress upon people that you know those trees are of large aesthetic value to us, and we'd like them preserved as much as possible.
I got you. Okay. All I can say about that is, I guess, I mean, you know what the schedule kind of looks like, so you know after this petition that'll be kind of next. So you could definitely reach out to National Grid and kind of tell them about the job. Mention that it's trees involved on River Road West, and maybe they can kind of go over it with you. I mean, if you're around, if you're home, if you're working from home, whatever, you'll see them. They don't. It's not like they just go out and they're cutting trees down. They do a lot of marking and tagging and going back and forth before they kind of start that work. So.
All right.
So then are you our liaison, Thomas?
No, I'm actually not associated with this job at all. It's weird how we kind of we have to take petitions for jobs that we're not involved in. But I can help as much as possible, you know.
Do we know who the liaison is?
I don't know who works in Berlin. That's the problem here.
Is it, excuse me, through the chair, is it Vincent? Is he the one that,
I think Vincent. Yeah, I think it is Vin. I know he takes care of a lot of cities and towns. So, but yeah, I think he's the one who sent me the petition request. So yeah, I believe it is.
he is? Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I wasn't sure how much ground he covered.
this is my first poll hearing. How is our approval communicated to National Grid?
Mary, is that for
Um,
you?
Mhm.
In the
'Cause if it's a
folder
letter
is the
that-
petition that you will sign if you assent to each of the 4 poll petitions, and then Eloise, as the town clerk, logs them in the town in her office, and copies go to National Grid and Verizon.
There's not necessarily a correspondence that goes with it that says we would like them to communicate with surrounding property owners as if they had any substantial tree trimming or removal to do.
I suspect that you have the power to append anything you want to the petition with your signature if you wanted to do something like that. We've never done it, but that doesn't mean it can't be
Right.
done.
I think that's a good point to do that and to also make the point about the double poles.
I think
Yeah.
it would,
Go ahead.
Mary has Vincent's email address. So Mr. Harding, Ms. Harding, if you would like to email Mary, selectmen@townofberlin.com, she can provide you with Vincent's email address, who is the National Grid liaison we typically deal with.
Thank you.
So does that mean you want us to do that work to Vincent to make those requests for the trimming of the trees, or are we doing it on behalf of the town, or are we just doing it on behalf of ourselves?
You
Well-
would be doing it on behalf of, well, excuse me, through the chair, you'd be doing it on behalf of yourselves. I can certainly, we can certainly email Vincent as well for the town or on behalf of the board. And we can also communicate with our municipal rep at National Grid, who's not directly involved in these poll hearings, but who we have communications with.
Okay,
And-
yeah, I think that it probably has more weight if, it's one, the town makes it more of a standard practice. Because then when National Grid and Verizon and other people come into town, they know that there's a practice in place about trimming of trees and double polling. I mean, we'll do it for ourselves out front, but if we can get the town to have a practice like that and the utility companies to recognize it, it might help with getting double polling down and preserving the trees.
And shortly we'll make a motion. I think we could make a motion to append both of those items to the motion.
Sure.
Scott, were you ready?
Well, yeah, I was reading the actual petitions themselves, and they're in much more legalese than I care to know myself. But in the reading of them, they don't actually mention the removal of the existing pole
Right.
when completed. And I don't know how I would word, because I think that could be an easy wording, and removal of existing poles when completed. But that how to word the communication with neighbors for any substantial tree alterations. But I'd love to see if we could add both of those to all four of the motions, all four of the petitions.
It sounded good to me, Scott.
I know, but you have to be careful of substantial. I mean.
I know that
That's.
Right.
so I'm willing to go a little bit on some faith. We have a public recorded meeting where we have both some intents. We know the intents of the surrounding property owners, which don't sound unreasonable to me at all. We have, National Grid, who has historically not wanted to take down trees for the sake of taking down trees. But you're right. We'll probably get better at wording this over time. But I also don't tend not want to slow down a project too much either. So I keep looking, my picture of everybody is up into my
I would
right.
I would suggest that the board append these two issues to the poll hearing approvals themselves, because the poll hearings themselves, the placement of poles and conduits are strictly governed by statute. So I would suggest appending the conditions to them rather than placing them right on these signature pages. Just attach them.
Mm-hmm. I'm totally fine with that, because it gets to the intent of making sure the old poles are taken down and making sure we don't destroy some. I mean, the town itself has some beautiful woodlands, although we did spend talking with the highway commissioner about how sometimes those beautiful woodlands do cause problems. But I'd like to find a way to both, again, preserve some of the tree work, not really slow this down, not hamstring National Grid, but also preserve what makes some of our properties valuable and nice to live in. And then, Margaret, can you help with some wording on it
Certainly. Mhm.
if I pass it with that way?
Yes.
And so I think I'm moving the approval of the petitions with amendments, with the exact wording to be worked out by the town administrator to make sure that the existing poles are removed, and that there is at least communications and on any sort of tree changes.
Well,
Wait.
if that was a motion, I'll second it.
We're going to call it append conditions. How's that?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. All right. Anything else to be said? All right, then we'll take a vote. Keith, aye.
Don't I?
Hawkins, aye.
Sounds unanimous. I thank you, Thomas, for coming, and I
Thank
thank
you
the
for the
Hardings
Hardings for speaking up.
Yes,
for
very much so.
speaking on behalf.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the time.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you
Stay
very
safe
much.
tomorrow.
Thanks.
No. There's 3 more hearings, right? Or did you just roll them all together?
We
They
just
rolled-
rolled
I-
them all together.
I think I just rolled them all together.
I
Do they
read
need to
them all.
take separate action on each, Mary?
Well,
Should
at
they
least
cite
I
them?
would make note in it that you're mentioning all 3, because if there's anyone else in the audience who wanted to speak to the other 3
Oh, I
polls.
did.
Right.
I did read off all of the instructions on the,
At the
on
very
the law.
beginning.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and your motion includes all 4. So as long as you're saying that.
Yes,
Yeah.
Just
my
make-
motion includes all 4, yes.
Yes.
Just didn't want to cut Thomas loose.
I know. I don't know how to get back on the Zoom. So I'm glad I use WebEx and Teams. I'm not a Zoom guy.
All right, okay. My bad.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
both.
guys. Have a good
Thanks.
night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Good night.
Good night, bye.
Bye.
All right.
And close the hearing?
Oh, yes, we need to make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
So, second,
Okay. Keith, aye.
Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
That's unanimous. All right. I'm going to move on to old business and review and vote to include annual town meeting warrant articles.
Yes. So you've got 3 pages of potential articles. This is the very first draft that's being provided to the board. These are in bulleted form. These are not in shown in warrant language. Would you like me to run through them, or do you have any, want to just pull out ones
Before
that
you
are-
start, why do we separate some out of special town meeting versus annual town meeting? Are we just going to do them all at annual town meeting?
We could. And the issue that we came up with this week, the one of the concerns would be that with Dennis's tax collection software, but at this point, we don't know that that the timeline is going to allow for a transition on July 1st. Dennis is going to need to give notice to the existing tax collection software provider and allow additional time for the new vendor to be able to set up and train and do things. This is shown as special town meeting because if there was going to be a one-time appropriation for the conversion costs, it would allow the special town meeting to be closed or dissolved, in which case the town could then immediately act on moving forward with this tax collection software. If that's not an issue, if we can't get it done in the timeline and there are concerns about being able to get this done in the timeline, yes, we can roll everything into the annual town meeting.
But aren't we talking about 24 hours anyway? So if this is all at annual town meeting rolls to a second night, it's just 24 hours later that it gets done. We're not buying him that much time by having there's a lot of overhead to opening and closing meetings. And so,
Yeah.
you know, it also makes the meeting go longer because you have to read the warrants and the call to meeting and close the first one. And
You could. And so all of these could just be taken as the beginning of the warrant. You could just have them all at the beginning of the warrant. It's going to depend too on the schedule for town meeting. So if you
Right.
if you start on the 3rd and then, I don't know, that's a Monday. I don't know
Right.
what day the Saturday is, jump
Right.
forward 5 days or so. But again,
Okay.
it's not looking like when I prepared this,
Right.
it was a question. It still is a question, but it's not looking like it's going to be essential to have a special town
Okay.
meeting and get it dissolved immediately, right away.
And so at this point in the drafts, it's just letting us know what's sort of out there.
Yes, it is.
And if we have issues with something being on the meeting as a whole or
Yeah.
questions more.
Well, I actually do have a question for the board, or something that I'd like to pose to the board. In the fall, a couple of articles were recommended to be placed on the warrant, or supported to be placed on the warrant, because those articles were going to be circulated by residents or by citizens that would normally have come forward through citizen petition. It would have required 100 signatures then, but with the annual town meeting, it only requires 10. So for citizen submitted articles, do you want to take the same approach and allow them to be placed on the warrant without a citizen petition? Or would you like me to reach out to these proponents and ask them to get their 10 signatures? It only takes 10 signatures for annual.
The proponents on the list?
We had a couple of River Bridge articles, and I know there's also another proponent or someone who would like to propose a drive-through in that area. So typically these things are brought by citizen petition, and due to COVID in the fall, that was seen a little differently with the 100 signatures required, but now it only requires 10 for annual town meeting.
Okay.
So,
I think it's only fair that we do the citizens petition.
Ask them to get the 10 signatures?
Yeah.
10 signatures.
Ten isn't much, but you might get a feel for how it's going to go.
Yeah, but you also stack it too, Chris. If you want the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through, you're gonna go to 10 friends who drink coffee, throughout the day and have 85 kids between them. So, sign, it's a done deal.
No, that's
You know.
okay. And then it'll be on the warrant and have the discussion.
2 of these things would actually be zoning bylaws that would require the planning board to have a hearing prior to anyway. So they'd have to go through the entire process. So I just wanted to put it out there because there's a significant difference in the number of signatures required.
I think because there's a general town meeting coming up, I think 10 signatures, have them get the 10 signatures, have it start the process so that they can get to zoning and planning and start getting those hearings going so they can be ready for May.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Margaret? Are you okay?
It does. I just want to know if there's a consensus, I just wanted to know if there was a consensus among board members, and I could certainly make those contacts and ask them to circulate.
Yeah, because I would just be concerned if we just drop them on the warrant, that they'd think, oh, all right, I don't have to do anything more. But, now that you're making them do it, it's like, all right, well, if you want this, giddy up. You got steps.
My thoughts were the other direction, is that if we'll drop it on the warrant, but that might give us a point to come and talk to them about ways potentially that improve it from the town standpoint. If they just get the signatures, they can pick the wording, and sometimes, better wording could make it can make it easier to get through or make it more palatable. But they can get the signatures, they can start the process, they can go to zoning and planning, and they can still amend and improve the wording based on feedback of zoning and planning. Because if CBA knows, whenever the planning commission says this would be great only if you would do X or Y, they might decide that X or Y language, because if it still lets them have their drive-throughs.
Well, and I think they can can they amend the language up to
Even on the floor.
They
the
could,
floor.
yeah, but it must appear exactly as worded on the warrant, exactly as it was submitted on the warrant.
Yes.
So I think have them get signatures so that the processing it going, so by the time we have to finalize the warrant and mail it out, we actually have language that has been vetted through a couple of things and has a better chance of a good discussion.
And tell me when the time frame would be that they would perhaps get these signatures.
They'd need to have the signatures collected and the citizen petitions submitted before the close of the warrant on February 22nd, 5 p.m. on February 22nd. Yeah, they've got to get them to the, they would submit them to the select board's office. This is way I haven't dealt with citizen petitions here, but in other towns. They would submit it to the selectman's office. Selectman's office would submit them to the clerk's office for certification of signatures, and they'd come right back.
Okay, well, I'm gonna stick with the needing the signatures, but they also need a mask.
Masks required. Okay, all right, I will notify them to get signatures.
Mary, you have something to say?
Yeah, the idea of having summaries after warrant articles is somewhat new, and sometimes the people who do citizens petitions don't provide a summary. So it'd be helpful if you're reaching out to them that they also provide that 150 maximum word summary in layman's terms as to what they're trying to say.
Okay.
Right. You think they want to do that because that helps their cause. But yes,
Yeah.
letting them know that that would be printed would definitely be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and also on their petitions.
Yeah.
If they want to go the petition route.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to go over anything else on the articles, or do you want us to just let you know if there are things that we don't think are necessary, or?
Yeah, well, you can let me know if you have any questions, or if you
Right.
think that an article isn't necessary, or I'm going to be starting to put these into warrant form. So if you do have questions, if you could just reach out and let me know. And by next week, I should have some of them on a draft warrant for you.
What was it, the air handler that Dave might possibly be able to eke out of the building budget for this year or not?
That's 60,000. I don't think.
There was something. Maybe it wasn't the air handler.
No, I think it
Oh.
was because it was either replace it and limp along or buy a brand new one because one's dying, and as soon as you replace one,
Okay.
the other one will go.
All right. I mean, I couldn't remember exactly if that was the item.
I know the NORAL, the alarm system in the curatorial building was another one that's being taken from buildings.
Okay. If he's not planning, then that's not a concern, I guess. Well, I wouldn't want to take it off if it hasn't been purchased.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Anything else on warrant articles? Okay, then we're going to move on to the Webjo Chapman chapter land and the
Yay.
waiver of right of first refusal.
Yep. So this has undergone legal review. It was in proper form. It has circulated around the local public bodies for comment, and that process is done. So if the board would like to waive its right of first refusal, you may certainly make a motion and vote to do that.
Okay. Do I hear the motion?
So moved.
There
And
you go.
seconded.
All right. And if there's no comments or questions, then we'll take a vote. Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Okay, Mary, I did not see the actual waiver form in the drive that the board's going to have to execute. So I don't know if that's hanging out there somewhere.
Right, since the Chapmans are actually on this, the next step to get this to them, since they've patiently waited.
Mm-hmm.
They did not provide one. I can draft one, Margaret, if you want to look
Okay.
it over.
Okay, all right, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. And Mary, when that is executed by the board, that's going to be filed with whom?
It goes back to the attorney because they have to place it on record.
Okay,
It's their burden to record it. We will copy all the other people involved in the statutory notice requirements, including the forestry department. I believe this is forestry land.
okay. All right. So we'll
So everyone
circulate.
that they CC'd in the first place, we would also CC back.
Okay. All right.
And is this going to require an actual signature?
Yes. It has to go to
Okay.
record, the registry of deeds.
Okay,
At
then,
least two, at least two.
all right. Well, Scott, are you going in tomorrow?
I am hoping these last 2 weeks at work have not been
Okay,
great for my schedule, but yeah, I'll try.
We'll
Do you
try
want to just make sure that Margaret has it and then, okay.
Yeah, check with, make sure I have it first and, yep.
okay. Then I think we should be all set. Just, and let us know also. Let Peg and I know too. We can
Yep.
look down there to,
Yeah, Mary, just text me and I'll change out of my work jammy pants and put on real
I'll
pants and
email
come down.
everybody and the town clerk as she tends to notarize these.
okay,
Okay.
thank you. All right. We had put this next item on because we had someone in the audience the last time that had a question about concerns about the remote education financial strain on families. And he was asking whether there was something we could do to help. And I think, Margaret, you had sent information about this to the school department.
Yep.
And then found that this was a school committee member, I believe, that,
Mhm.
Yes.
The new one, the newest one, yep.
Yeah.
and I wonder whether he did contact the school department or talk about this with the school committee himself. I don't know.
I actually encouraged him, tomorrow night, the school committee is meeting, and I actually encouraged him to attend that meeting, but since he's a school committee member, he's certainly gonna be welcome to bring it up. But I wasn't able to find very positive news. On our end, the news isn't great because our coronavirus relief funds are very restricted funds and would not be able to provide reimbursement to families for these types of expenditures. On the school side, we did get a response that their ESSER grant, which comes through the federal government, can't be used for the benefit of individuals either. But the school did note, and this is for the information of families out there, if I could, families can offset some of their financial burden by taking advantage of free school lunch programs available to all families regardless of income. Let's see. So the district opted into a different program that allows free meals to be offered to school-age children in Berlin and Boylston. This program was extended by the federal government until June 30th of this year. Meals are offered for in-person students and remote students. And the school district sends out communications on this in their weekly newsletter. So while they couldn't offer direct relief to families, the district did mention this avenue to provide at least a little bit of financial relief.
Yeah.
I did-
Go ahead.
I did actually reach out to the state, the administration and finance to find out what our exact limitations are on our COVID funds. I do have the guidance. I've read it. I don't think that we're going to be able to use it for this type of thing, but I reached out to A&F anyway to see what their response would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't heard back yet.
Well, we wouldn't have any funds available. And if we did, we'd have to go to town meeting to, be able to expend it in a different way.
Yeah, we'd have to, there would be, there'd have to be policies and procedures set up. We'd also have to check with DOR on providing reimbursements for such things. So our best and really only bet was with coronavirus relief funds. And so I'll wait to hear back from the state, but I'm not.
The only other thing I had thought of was that I know I've heard from parents that items are requested by the school departments, each year at the beginning of the school year and sometimes at Christmas, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe they would even say, we need these supplies,
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. And, have, instead of requesting them from parents, I think that should be optional. That would help financially, if the finances is the issue. Or perhaps the school should be putting some of those items in the budget. But I mean, I tried to think too about some different ways that that this could help people. But that was about all I could come up with. Any other comments?
I also included, just for the board's information and for viewers' information, I also included our legislators in these communications. So they are also aware of these concerns.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Scott, did you have something to add?
I have my normal super crazy thought that I will write up and run by Margaret before I say it out loud, because sometimes it's too crazy to even be worthy of meetings. But we do have a trustee of trust team in town, and if there was a fund potentially made from free cash that had some guidelines on it, that we could create something that could be voted on at town meeting.
We'd also have to think about administration for that. So
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of that.
a lot, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll move on to the FY22 budget updates.
All right. I don't have a whole lot. We can start on the expense sheet if you'd like. Very few new cells. I will be bringing forth the wage recommendations next week, so we can fill in those cells. And for today, though, I'm going to go down the list. Communications expenses. There was a revision, that's line 69, account 296,5700. This includes radio relay services, regional dispatch district assessment, which is up by $900 and I want to say $942, somewhere in that vicinity. And also our telephone system here in this building. Overall, communication expenses are seeing a decrease of $1,418 or minus 0.7% from FY21 final approved. And then there is the historic commission expense line. That was initially requested at $1,000 more than FY21 because of that alarm system in the curatorial building, but because that's being funded through this year's expense line, the Historical Commission has submitted a revised level funded budget request. So I think those are the only two line items that I have for tonight, and then we can go over fun with graphs.
Yes, I'd love to go over funds the graphs.
Fun with graphs.
They didn't fully make sense to me, but anyway, I'm fine. Do we motion these, right?
Sure.
Yes, please.
So I am fine motioning the communication expenses and historic commission expenses as presented by Margaret.
Do I hear a
Seconded.
second? Okay. Should we take a vote? Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Okay, let's open up the graphs. We don't take too long. Oh, all
Dear
right.
God.
Here we are.
I know.
Okay, so we're gonna go, this is the first one.
Yep.
This is just for illustration purposes showing The changes in the use of, primarily the changes in the use of taxes or tax revenue applied to the budget. So last year, we explained about, the administrative finance team explained the value of following Department of Revenue's tax levy formula. So they actually have a calculation that you use in order to manage tax levy growth. Now, the DOR applies this to tax levy. Berlin only applies a portion of its tax levy to the budget. But I wanted to just show you for illustrative purposes that if we could stay on this trajectory where you have a 2.3, 2.5, and those increases remain stable, it's going to take out the potential spikes and then dips also in the applied taxes to the operating budget. So this just shows where the revenues where the revenues come from, and over the past 4 years, or the past 3 years, and then FY22 projected, what the revenues would look like. All right. So that's just one. I wasn't able to actually get all the other revenue sources gathered for FY16.
Right. But the other thing that this is influenced by is how much property values are in town. And so although from fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 20, there might have been a 13% in total property tax revenue, there also might have been the opening of a large mall on Route 62 that actually brought in a large amount of taxes. And so that increase of 13% wasn't necessarily an increase of 13% by the taxpayers. In other words, my property tax on my house didn't necessarily go up 13% that year.
No, but for many people it did. For many residents, it resulted in a significant increase in their tax bills. You're right. It's going to depend on values and where those values shift.
Right.
But in that particular year, with such a large jump, which happened to also dip into the excess levy capacity, or that debt exclusion amount the town has been avoiding tapping into. That particular year it did. And so there was just a lot of raise and appropriate that year.
Right.
So
potentially in fiscal year 19, had we done the underride, then that couldn't have happened in 2013 without a specific vote by people actually even at the ballot box.
It couldn't have happened. Now the question is, and I'll speak generally about underrides, especially in this COVID environment. If for any reason there is a significant dip in value, say there's a huge dip in commercial values due to lack of business closures, et cetera, the first thing is going to be that commercial value is going to be shifting over to, that commercial tax burden is going to be shifting over to the residents. Mm-hmm. What we have right now is we have about 280,000 plus or minus dollars in excess levy capacity over that debt excluded amount. When the debt exclusion goes away, that excess levy capacity is going to go away. It's going to come off the budget. It's going to come off the excess levy capacity. We have about $200 and something thousand. If the town lost, and I'm not suggesting this is going to happen, but if the town lost, say $10 million in commercial value due to a closure of a large commercial business, you could be losing $250,000 in revenue there. So the town's options would be you could have a mix of options, but the town's options would be one, if we did have an override and that excess levy capacity was gone, you could either cut the budget by $250,000 or however many dollars to make it up. You would not have the tax revenue capacity to actually raise and appropriate for the service. So it's the underride. I mean, we could certainly have a much
I mean,
bigger
I was gonna say,
discussion.
I don't disagree with anything you said, except that I think in those cases, the voters should have to vote on whether or not they want a substantial cut in government
Or no
services
vote,
or an increase in taxes. Now, when I first started proposing we do an underride on the finance committee 4 and 5 years ago, we had $1 million worth of excess levy capacity. I didn't want us to shrink it like we have and have the big increases in tax values that we had without actually having to go back to the taxpayers and take these votes. Now, over the years, we've now eaten away at it and done exactly what I feared it was going to happen has happened. And so you're right. At 200,000, it's not worth doing an underride. When it was $1 million, it was worth doing the underride to prevent some of the stuff that actually has happened to increase the taxes.
I think so. The other way that we could look at it is if we try to stick to the tax levy formula that restricts the growth to 2.5% or about there, we're less likely to see these spikes and these dips in taxes. And there's nothing that would force us or even require us or incentivize us to use the excess levy capacity to make up for the difference. What we would end up doing is we'd have to stick to the levy formula. So it's no different than and Scott, you know this, and it's no different than our own household budgets. We live on a revenue-based budget, right? Or we should live on a revenue-based budget. What we spend is not the first thing we should be looking at. It should be the available revenues we have, how we want to control the tax burden. So I think these are all things. And if we have a little bit of excess levy capacity in an environment like this with COVID, it's not, what we have is not a bad thing.
But trying to keep the budget even at 2 or 3%, if health insurance goes up by 10% every year and Worcester retirement goes up by 10% every year, they already account for 10% of our budget. They have used that 2 and 2.5% before we start talking about raises for staff or added services or, the dump open more hours or covering, better hours for better fire support or cutting down more trees or a lot of other things that people keep asking for. And so, trying to make sure that we get, we can say we want to keep, I don't think anyone out there is saying, gosh, we could spend tons more money. But the fact is that our employees need to be paid for what is reasonable for the work they're doing. And health insurance and retirement are eating up everything that we try to do in the budget. And so to keep it 2% a year, we're going to have to cut services every year until there's nothing left of government.
That might be true in some years. In other years, it's I think that we would be able to do okay with the increase. But it's certainly something that we can talk about. I just think that it would be in the town's interest to manage this in some sort of formulaic way so that we don't see significant deviations in the taxes. So, all right.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Scott. I think that it does deserve a bigger discussion because there are services the public demands. Here's the next chart. This is the expense breakdown from FY19, really to FY19 to FY21. In FY22, we do not have the intergovernmental assessments all laid out yet. So this should help answer the question, and the pie charts that I have on the next sheet should help answer the question, where do my taxes go? This breaks down the budget sections to show where the budget revenues are actually applied. So intergovernmental assessments is by far the largest investment. So education would be a significant assessment. The next highest is public safety. And then it's the other budget sections gets smaller.
I thought intergovernmental was almost entirely schools.
It is almost entirely schools. It's got
Right.
Central Mass Regional Planning Commission and
Yeah,
I'm-
is Central Mass Regional Commission, which is a few thousand on a $6 or $7 million. They're
it's a
a
few,
rounding error.
it's a
Right.
few hundred.
Yeah.
It's a few hundred, but
And again, so if we're trying to keep everything to 2 or 3% and the schools go up by 4 or 5% per year, as they are half of the town's budget, it also means that if schools go up by 5% and insurance goes up by 10%, we have to cut everything else. That's fire, that's, police, that's library, that's transfer station, that's all of us and all of the work we do.
Well,
It's
that
difficult
just
to keep
means
it at things.
That just
But
means that we actually can't sustain that. And so we have
Right.
to come up with a plan.
we can't sustain it, or the taxpayers could, we could apply more tax levy. We could apply some of that excess levy capacity. And so that's.
Yeah, but applying excess levy capacity is raise taxes on
It's
town
raising, we could
residents.
raise
Right.
taxes.
Excess tax levy is money we could by law have taken from people but have not yet.
That's correct. That's correct. It's a set aside. So if those school assessments go up significantly, and or Worcester
Right.
Regional Retirement goes up significantly, the town could tap into those funds that it's intentionally set aside.
And to be clear, even though I'm sort of frustrated the number has shrunk over the last several years, the fact that Berlin has either ever have it and still has it puts us way better than a lot of other towns. There's a lot of other towns that really how much they can spend every year is really limited totally by tax levy because they have no flexibility. And so the fact that this town has flexibility at all is a great benefit to how decently well managed the finances of this town are.
That's absolutely correct. This town has flexibility that many other towns don't have. There are so many towns that are taxing up to their levy limit. So
and do Prop 2.5% overrides just for basic operations on a pretty regular basis.
That's right. They do. So it's all about being pragmatic and a good steward of the town's finances.
And some of it, I don't think it shows on this, that green bar, debt and interest. Yes, we have a town barn that has some money in it, but then as a whole, many towns have debt levels that are significantly higher than we have in this town.
Absolutely.
And that we've done pretty good at replacing buildings sort of one at a time and not doing 17 new buildings all at once.
Yeah. Having some debt service does show bond rating agencies of the town's commitment to its infrastructure. But this is a great place to be. You're right. Other towns have a significant amount of debt, have a huge debt burden. So, Berlin is in a very fortunate position. It would be great. And I'd love to create a debt management policy for the town in coordination with the administrative finance team and the finance committee and select board, so that we can plan debt service moving forward. So we can always be in a good position.
Right.
Okay. All right. And then the last thing, this is really not going to show much of anything. It's when we get to FY22 that we'll probably see some shifts. But this is this just shows where the revenues are going in a different form. So for FY20, it shows where the revenues went, and in FY21, same thing. In FY22, when we have our budget finalized, we'd be able to show this again, showing the current percentage allocations to various budget sections. So
very nice.
Okay.
Very nice graphs, pie charts.
Fun with graphs.
Fun with flags.
I did a really fun one in one of my former towns that showed the pressure that one particular budget section was putting on all the others, and it made it look like a fish. The way the line chart went, it was like, oh wow, that's that budget section has outstripped. Anyway, okay. Enough of that.
I think your second calling would have been like a finance person. Am I correct?
Like, no.
Enough to balance.
Come on, Margaret, $10 plus or minus either way from my checkbook. I want an opening on the finance committee, just
No,
saying.
no. To the penny, Peg. To
Nope.
I
the penny,
know.
Peg.
To
Nope.
the penny.
Nope.
I'm with you.
The
I'm
penny.
with
Nope.
you.
$10 either way, I'm good.
All right. Well, looks like we have no new business tonight. So board questions and comments. 2. All right. You.
And Margaret, sorry, they were probably somewhere in your TA report and I didn't see them. The Cutoria building, where are we with that? For
The alarm
the,
system and the
yeah.
security, I have to get an update from Dave on that to find out where we're at.
was it supposed to be in by a certain date or is this gonna be like another one of
Oh.
those? Oh, don't worry about it.
No, it should have been in before things were moved in. So now it's just a matter of trying to get it done as soon as possible. So let me check with Dave on that.
Okay. And anything on C3? I know that Amy's probably knee deep in it with talking to Marlboro.
Well, let's see. If I was the zoning board liaison, I could probably tell you, but
Oh, then there you go.
I haven't
nominate
started
you.
that. I haven't started that responsibility
Nope.
yet.
You said it. You said it. You own it.
Zoning
There you
board is meeting on Wednesday night at the same time the finance committee's meeting. So I think that hearing is continued to Wednesday
Yeah.
night.
Okay. Okay. Will Amy be there? Do you know? I would assume they were looking for her last time.
I'm guessing last time I talked with Lynn, I think she was involved. Am I right, Margaret?
She is involved, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Those are my 2.
All right. Scott?
The underutilized buildings grant that we looked at before, I went to the website. It said it had upcoming webinars, except it had no links for any of those webinars. And it also said, watch them here. And those weren't links. And so I'm still trying to find them to learn more. But I think that grant pool has a lot of potential for us.
Okay.
It is to help towns with town-owned physical buildings and helping getting more out of them. The things that come to mind, is specifically in it talks about HVAC and roofs, by the way. But it seems to have some a little bias towards stuff that continue to make buildings structurally sound that might be slowly falling apart. And so the 3 projects I have in mind, although I would love to hear from actually Dave and all of you at some point, we don't need to finalize tonight, but it's really roof on town offices, HVAC on town offices, foundation for Bullard House. I think all 3 of them would have substantial impact on our town, and are larger projects that could use a chunk of money to help make sure they get done and get done right. But if there are other ideas of town buildings where a substantial project might, or a project in that, it says grants are between 50,000 and a million, although the pool itself is 8 million. So it looked like a lot of their projects, they like to do between 150 and 100,000 or so. But some of that, I think could help some of those projects.
Okay.
And so I will continue to try to find those links and see if that, since the last seminar was supposed to be last week, I'm expecting that the last one, once it's done, those things like watch the seminars here will actually become links now that all the seminars are done. And so I'll go back.
I'll see if I can pull up those links and email them to
Okay.
you.
Great.
Okay.
Was that for underutilized buildings or?
It's called an underutilized building fund. The intent is that it's underutilized because the building might be starting to fall apart a little bit. And so it's to continue the utilization and make town assets in great shape. And I'm still learning more about it. And so as I learn more and can get more into it and watch these to understand it better, there might be other projects. They don't start, they take letters of intent starting the end of February through April. They don't start taking grants until May to like September until things run out. And so I think we have time. It's not like we have to decide today, but it is one of those grants that looks like it has some potential for some things that have been on our to-do list.
Mhm.
And including, Peg, whether or not we might have other funds for it, but adding solar or energy independence to a building does have some transformative effects in town too. And so I'll continue to keep an open mind to the type of projects, but I'd like other brains thinking about what stuff. And it wasn't ready for Dave tonight, even if he hadn't been, out plowing the last several days and getting ready to do it again. So like next month when Dave presents, we might prep him for a conversation of what of some of our buildings, are there other projects that I'm just not privy to that might be great.
Might be a good idea to think about those buildings in town that maybe we don't use.
Right.
We don't know what those uses would be. But, or,
I thought if there was an unused building that said, boy, if the building only had a better heating system, it would be used more often or something like that. I think it would fit quite well. And like you're right, I don't have like what is the roof of the 100-year-old barn that I thought we wouldn't need anymore because we have a new highway building. If that's really going to be needed
Right.
for a while.
Well,
Are
or
there
the
things
old,
like that
the
that keep that
old
going?
fire, I'm thinking the old firehouse or
Yep.
things like that. But
the
anyway, yeah.
Legionnaire building or.
I saw that grant information too.
Yep.
Well, keep us posted.
There are
Okay.
a number of grants out right now, in addition to that one that,
Yep.
that look interesting. DEP just put out a grant opportunity, or is going to put out a grant opportunity on dam. Whether it's removals or dam repairs, including studies. And we're talking about a property that's in tax title and
Mhm.
we've tied that to our MVP program. So that would be another interesting one to look at. There's also a culvert. MassDOT has done is doing a culvert replacement grant opportunity. They're really they're really testing us during COVID.
Yeah.
Like,
How much time have you got?
how much time do you got? COVID or grants?
Exactly.
Come on, let's all team up and do this. All right.
Alrighty. So no more board questions and comments? No, we're good.
Margaret, I lost that link for the all the grants. Could you whiz it over?
I got
Yeah.
a new one today that I could send. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at my favorites and I'm not seeing it.
All right. I'll look it up and send you all the link for the latest.
Thanks.
Okay. So again, I asked the board, just send me your top choices on board liaison assignments and any comments and questions you have on that bulleted list of potential town meeting articles.
Okay.
Okay. And since we have no need for an executive session tonight, I guess I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Unless
And
we just want to stick around and chat,
No,
All right.
no.
What?
Not
Okay.
now, huh? Okay. All right, so we've got a motion and a second. Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.